My name is Jackie Jacqueline Jean Bartczak. I was born in Crystal Falls, Michigan. My mother's parents came over from the Finn-Swede border, and they came to Crystal Falls, and that's where they settled. My dad's parents, I'm not too sure about. They were quite a mixture of nationalities. My dad was a Finn, an Irish, a German. My parents were quite a combination. My mother, Alice Lucille Anderson Whitman, was a saint. She basically took care of our family. There was 4 of us kids. My dad was in the Army, and he spent through his basic training in the Army, and then he came home. I was very little, so I did not know my dad. When he came home, he had hopped a train ride on the ladder of a train, and he got dropped off at the bottom of the hill of our house. And when he walked up the hill, I basically had no idea who he was. I had never met my dad because I was little. I was like 3 years old, and I did not remember him. And so when he came up the hill and my mom and dad hugged and everything else, I was like, I did not know who he was. But anyhow, I found out that he was my dad. And my sister Joyce had just been born, so he had never met her. So there was my older sister Janice, and then me, and then my younger sister Joyce. And that was my dad. My mom, she was a saint. That's all I can say about my mom. My mom took care of us. She worked as a maid for many years for some Jewish families, cleaning their houses. And then she got a job as a nurse's aide at Iron County Medicare facility. And she basically was our sole supporter. They named me Jackie because I had a cousin that I never knew. My aunt from California had a child, and his name was Jackie. And he drowned in the Paint River in Escanaba, Michigan. And when I was born, it was right shortly after he drowned. So that's why my mother named me Jackie. My siblings, I have an older sister, Janice, a younger sister, Joyce, and I had a younger brother, Daryl. Janice was very quiet and shy. My older sister, Joyce, was very younger than me and very boisterous, very outgoing. And my brother Daryl, being the youngest and the only boy in the family, was spoiled. We didn't have a lot of family traditions in my family other than every Sunday afternoon we would go down to Grandma Ina Anderson, and Grandma would always provide the meat. And then everybody else that went down, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever, brought dishes to pass, and we always ate together. When we got done eating, of course, the adults ate in the dining room, and the children ate in the kitchen. Well, when we got done eating, the adults went and played cards. And all of us older cousins had to do dishes. And once we got the dishes done, and I mean, these were no dishwashers, no, nothing. This was hand washing, hand drying, whatever. And then we were allowed to go outside and play in the yard, baseball or kickball or whatever we decided to do. I was a normal child. I had a lot of childhood friends. I raised a little hell. I feel I was a normal child. When I was younger, we used to go around and pack mailboxes with snow, just to be devious. Me and my friends and I. We used to latch on to cars and trucks as they were going by and try to, slide along with them and everything. I was not a good child, but I was a normal child. When I was a kid, we always played down at the street light. That was when that came on, that was our time to play. And then when my dad came down with the switch, whoosh, 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 a willow switch, that was time to go home. But we always, we played hide and seek. We played Red Tom, Black Tom. We played so many, just the simple games. We didn't have electronics. We didn't have the TV games that the kids have now and the videos. We made our own games. We sledded down the hills on cardboard boxes. As a teenager, I worked at the Crystal Falls cafeteria in the high school. I helped, dish out food. And then at nights, I worked at the A&W root beer stand. And I loved it. I mean, it was just such a, I was not on roller skates. I was on my feet. I loved Elvis. Elvis was, I was a dancer when I was in high school, and I loved Elvis. And I think he basically was my hero. I was working at a resort in Sainer, Wisconsin. Well, before that, I had been down in Iron Mountain, and we always had a bunch of male friends and female friends, but we were not, dating or anything. And we always had the stipulation that if we went down and if the guys found some girls to go out with, they could go out with, but we would meet them at a certain place at a certain time. Or if we found somebody, it was, like a pickup thing, okay? And anyhow, this one night, Ted came into a restaurant where we were sitting because the guys that we were with had found some girls and we didn't find any guys. So he came in there, and I recognized him from being a Stambo football player and stuff. So I went up to him and I said, "Hey," "do you have a room in your car? We want to get back to Crystal Falls." And he said he had girls in the car. And he said, "I'm sorry, I don't." So we ended up having to stay there until our male friends came back to pick us up. Before getting married, I was working at a resort in Sainer, Wisconsin. And I was, cleaning rooms, so hotel rooms, motel rooms. And one night, one of the patrons of the motel needed a babysitter, so I stayed home and babysat. And my rest of my girlfriends that I cleaned cabins with had gone out to party. And when I got home, there was nobody there yet. So I tried to get in my bottom bunk. I had a bunk bed room, and I was alone, and there were clams and squid and everything else in my bottom bunk that the cabin boys had stuck in my bottom bunk as a joke. So I was on the top bunk. So I went into the top bunk, and I fell asleep. Well, shortly after that, the rest of my girlfriends came home, and we had a rule that we had a little lounge area in our cabin, and then we had the 4 bedrooms, and no boys were allowed in our bedrooms. Well, all of a sudden, my door opens up, and in walks Ted. And he says, who are you? And I looked at him and I said, oh, I remember you. You gave me a ride from the Crystal Falls High School down to Louis, the hangout, and I asked you for a ride from Iron Mountain to Crystal Falls, and I mean, the story went on and on. Anyway, he did not leave till 5 o'clock in the morning until I was in the top bunk, and he was standing on the bottom bunk, and he would not leave till I gave him a kiss goodbye. We have lived in many cities, with Ted working, well, first of all, in college, between Houghton and Crystal Falls and Gastra and Stambo and Iron River, and then going down to Lansing, and then Alpha, and then we've lived in so many cities that it's too hard to describe, because being Ted with the job he had, we had to move where he was working. Well, as a result, I like to golf, I like to bowl, and then for Ted and I to be together, we hunted partridge, rabbits, deer hunting. He bought me my first shotgun, he bought me my first deer rifle, and we became closer because of that. Our oldest is Todd, and he was very intelligent, very smart, but he was a hellion. Terry was the quiet, shy one. He was very athletic. And then my daughter Jill, as she was born with a deformity, we are so proud of her because of what she accomplished in her life. She never missed out on a prom, a homecoming. She was fantastic. Since we moved to Rock here, it's been very peaceful, very quiet. We love to watch the deer. We love to watch the turkeys. We just enjoy being together. From 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, we do our social visiting, Ted and I, what you gonna do today, what I'm gonna do today, whatever. The happiest moments in my life was when my children were born. Saddest moments was when my mother, my dad, my brother, Ted's mother, Bertha, and Kashmir, our dad, and his sister, Gwen, when they passed away. Those were my saddest moments. The proudest moments is probably when my children graduated and became self-sufficient. Ted, that's a difficult question. He's very loving at times, very forgiving at times, and yet he is bullheaded. He is a Pollock, and he is very, very stubborn. And being as I am a Swede, I am very stubborn and selfish also. So between the two of us, we clash, but yet we always make up. The key to a good marriage and a lasting relationship. Ted and I have had lots of ups and downs, but we've always worked through them. We talk. We work through the hard times and the good times. It's a communication. Communication in a marriage is the best thing that you can have. Life advice for my family is love, take care of each other, have faith. Faith is a big thing. Protect each other, and be gentle.